I've completed my glass, and now I'm going to go on to applying a glass material to it. First thing I need to do though is to change my environment background so that when I test render this glass I can see what effect my glass is having on the environment around it. To do this we need to go up to render and environment. What we're going to do is tick use map, and then we're going to use this button here to actually select a map. We then select bitmap from the material browser that appears and click OK. It will then bring up the select bitmap image file dialog box, and then we need to go off and find a bitmap that we're going to use in the background. Now it's not really important what type of bitmap we put here as long as we pick one. So I've just picked a nice tranquil lake. Okay, now what we need to do is start work on our material. So we go to our materials editor. We could go off and get one from the material library, the Raytraced Material library, but what we're going to do here is actually build our own. So firstly, we need to set a name for our new material. G1 will do for mine. And then we need to change the type of material from standard to ray traced, and we do that through this button here. It allows us to change from all types of different materials, and we've basically been using standard up until now. What we're going to do is go off and use a ray traced material, so I click OK to that, and you can see that this dialog box changes greatly. Now the shading type can be blim or fong. I'm going to leave mine at fong for now. What we need to do now is set up this material to be transparent and to have what's called Falloff. In other words, as you get near the edge of the object, the glass appears to be thicker. So what we need to do is firstly pick our diffuse color. I'm going to pick a blue, sort of a very solid sky blue. I'm picking a very solid color because it's going to be a transparent object, and if the color weren't solid, it'd look very washed out. Next, we have to set the transparency level, and we can do that through setting a color, and different shades of grey will actually set different shades of transparency, or we could do that through a number by unticking the color palette option and dragging up a number. The choice is yours. What we're going to do here is just set the background on, this checkerboard background, so we can see what's happening. Alright, you'll see that it's not actually see-through yet, and this is to do with the fall-off that I was speaking about earlier. What we now need to do is set our glossiness, and glasses tend to be very glossy and very shiny, so if you turn those up, it's not going to hurt. Now what we need to do is leave all the extended parameters and so on alone for now. And what we need to do is go to the Maps option. Under Reflect, what we need to do is set a fall off from the material browser. So we're going to give that a fall off, and here you can see it switch to the sub-object fall off for this material, and you can start to see what's happening up here. Now what we need to do is change our fall off type from perpendicular and parallel to Fresnel, and then we definitely want to keep it view direction camera Z as the current settings for this, and we can leave the majority of this just the way it is for now. We're just going to step that back to the master material and apply it to our glass, and we'll just give that a quick render. Okay, here we can see a very basic rendering of this. Now like I said before, the colour seems to wash out an awful lot when you're using glasses. So what I recommend you do is just play with all of these settings until you get the look that you're looking for. So I'm just going to drag that down a bit more. And once you've gotten that look, experiment with it so you can get the overall feel for the glass. And it can't hurt to put a bit of a bump into the glass and pick a bump map. You could pick a bitmap, or you could use a noise if you like. And as you can see, it's starting to give the glass a bit of depth. It can't hurt to do that, and it's certainly worth playing with. So just experiment with it, like I said, have some fun until you get the overall look of the glass that you want to use. One last note on a glass material using the ray trace option is to play with your index reference. This is your reflection index reference or refraction index reference. And now the higher you set this number, the more it's going to apply an edge thickness. So it's worth playing with just to see what it's going to look like when you're done. So if we just give that one a quick render now. Unfortunately, ray traces tend to slow down your machine an awful lot, so it's just something you're going to have to get used to. And if you plan to use a lot of ray-traced materials, play with it a lot, because the more you familiarise yourself with the settings, the less re-renders you'll have to do to get the overall look that you're chasing. This is the finished render.